By the way, are you okay with my volume levels? Am I okay here? Can you hear me
Yeah,
all right?
I can hear you okay.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
I can
Good.
too.
Good. I've got a setup that means that I actually have quite a good mic, so hopefully I should sound decent.
Good.
Good.
Okay, so it seems like people are joining now. I'm gonna move myself to a listener and just give everyone about like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
So, John, where in the UK are you?
Tunbridge Wells. Do you know where that is?
No.
Okay, it's in Kent. So if you have London,
Right.
and you head south, that's heading into Kent, and we're about 45 minutes by train to actually get down to Tunbridge Wells.
Nice.
But that's basically where the inside story is as well.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. I've not lived here all my like in Tunbridge Wells all my life. I've kind of been around London and things like that. So.
That's awesome. I visited London once, and I loved it, but
Oh, really?
my partner is dying to go for the first time, so I'm sure we'll end up there at some point and have to.
You'll have to get in contact, and like we'll go out. We'll do something.
That would be so fun. Yes. So thank you everyone for joining. We're going to hang out for another minute or two and just let people come on in. We're excited to host this chat. So stick around and be patient in those first few minutes. We're just going to let people join in. But we are excited to chat with John today. And I am the CEO and founder of WOKEN. I'll go into a little bit fuller bio, but yeah, we're going to talk about John's career, what he did well, any mishaps, twists and turns, and all the good elements that you guys can learn and apply to your own careers. So that is sort of our exciting journey for today's chat. So yeah, we're going to give it another minute or two and just see who joins. And by like 104, 105, we will dive into everything. So thank you for joining and hanging out. And I am joining you all from New York City. And as we just learned, John is in the UK, which is very cool and very exciting how global we can be.
It sounds cool, doesn't it?
Your accent sounds cool, that's for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I've had it all my life.
It makes things more fun and interesting.
Well,
I saw an article about how like Gen Z in the US are just, trying to have like British accents for some reason. I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but who knows?
It used to be that in popular culture, the British accent was associated with villains. So, yeah, I'm saying.
Well, these days, I think it just makes someone sound probably more interesting. So
maybe,
yeah.
I don't know.
Or at least to us Americans, it does.
It's the exotic. That's what it is.
Yeah, or it just makes me think Harry Potter.
Well, yeah, I do enjoy a bit of Harry Potter. I have to admit. It's
too close to home. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've been to Harry Potter World, in fact.
So cool.
Yeah. Hey, when you come to London, that's definitely something you need to do.
Yeah. Oh my God, I have to.
Yeah, the Warner Brothers tour is great.
Yeah. So thank you for joining, everyone. We're going to hang out one more minute, and then we're going to dive in and talk about all things career. So we are excited to be here. And yeah, we're going to dive in, and we're going to have a bunch of time for Q&A as well. So we're going to do a little bit of interview stuff, but please, hang out because we will get to all your questions. And I think we'll have an intimate audience today. So we'll absolutely be able to support each one of you with any career goals and challenges that you're facing and see how we can make today's talk applicable to each of you. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be exciting.
Yes.
Well, it's up to me, really, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I'll be here interpreting everything you're saying.
Thank you.
Making sense of it, which is my job, right? So just tell us who you are, and I'm sure we're going to learn from that. All right, so I will dive in. Hello, Fishbowl. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Rachel Serwetz. I'm the founder and CEO of career coaching company WOKEN, and I am here with John Hull, who is the director of video and animation at The Inside Story. We are excited that this is our fifth time speaking on Fishbowl, and you can follow us by clicking our profiles to be notified of future conversations. I actually think we've already scheduled a few more with Fishbowl in the next few months, so we're really excited about that. And we've been running this series where we've been highlighting professionals who feel engaged and aligned with their jobs. I know, what a crazy concept. And we want to learn their stories and tease out the lessons that you can apply to your own career so that you can explore, identify, and pursue your best fit career path. So we're going to interview John about 20, 30 minutes, and we've got some questions for him. And then we're going to open it up to the audience Q&A. And you can either raise your hand or you can send me a direct message, and we will make sure to get all your questions answered. I'll just give you a 60-second introduction as to who I am, and then we're going to dive into everything about John. We're going to learn everything about you. But yeah, my story, I started out at Goldman Sachs and then Bridgewater Associates. From there, I got coaching, training, and certified through the International Coach Federation. I also got a tech MBA at NYU Stern, and I've been building my own company for about 5.5 years now. And so what WOKEN does is we help professionals to be intentional and thoughtful with every career decision, whether you are exploring your path, whether you're debating upskilling opportunities, whether you're improving your personal branding, job searching, networking, pivoting, you name it. We simply want every professional to feel supported with their career. So that is the nutshell of my background. And yeah, we are going to sort of dive in. So John, I want to start at the beginning. Tell us where things began. And this is always the most interesting part because I'm curious about your earliest moments that helped you. Just maybe you didn't know exactly in the beginning, but did they help you notice what you thought you might want out of a professional career as early as you can sort of remember, and what comes to mind?
Well, thank you, Rachel. Thank you for having me. It's really lovely to talk to you. So I'm 46 at the moment. So I grew up in the 80s and then 90s, and throughout that time, I've always been interested in art. I was a massive comics nerd, very much into kind of copying things from the X-Men and stuff like that, and I very much enjoyed just kind of expressing myself. My family were really good with allowing me that space to be able to do that, and they always encouraged me, which is great. I love them very dearly. Yeah, I guess really that just kind of progressed through school. I remember I painted our school hovercraft. That's right, we actually had a school hovercraft. It was built by the school for some bizarre reason, and I was asked to paint it as being the person that was kind of arty. Not something that happens in many schools, I guess. But I kind of bounced around doing kind of artwork and things like that. Was very much into things like painting and fine art for a bit, and then I think when I was probably around about 17, I started properly getting into music as well. I started to learn guitar. I ended up just kind of mucking around with my friends, playing in sort of bands, whereas I'm vivid memories of me just running around in front of cameras miming. It was terrible. And I ended up eventually doing A-levels, at school in arts and in English, and then ended up going and doing a foundation course at uni, and that's essentially a year's course to do with fine art or well any kind of artistic practice before you go and decide to do something that is a lot more specified. So usually you do the foundation, then you do a BA.
Right.
After that. So that's usually the way that it happens, at least in the UK. So within art fields, you'd go do a foundation, then you do your BA, which is 3 years, and then after that, you would you might go and do an MA or something, or you go into full-time employment.
Right. Well, I'm just going to take a super quick pause here because you've told us a lot of wonderful things. And what I'm going to do for those of you in the audience, so I'm a career coach, if I didn't already make that clear, what I want to do is listen to John's story and highlight what I'm hearing that you guys can apply to yourself. And, there might have been decisions John made that were good or bad or whatever it may be, but I want to tease out what I'm hearing as intentional, or maybe he didn't even realize he was doing it. What was he doing to figure out his own journey that you all can do the same thing? So a few things that I just noticed so far, and we're going to keep going into what happened after the foundation course. But first of all, your family, and your school both encouraged you and gave you that environment to pursue your interests. Now, that doesn't always happen with everybody. And just, for all those in the audience, it's never too late. So if you can find an encouraging environment, and by the way, that can be on the side of your job to say, what hobbies do I want to get into? Like, I think what's interesting, especially about the arts and music and comics and the animation world, is a lot of people sometimes think of these things as hobbies. And for you, at first they were, but your open-mindedness to go study that and then see where it might have led professionally. A lot of people have a fear if they're interested in something artistic of like, did you ever, when you were sort of getting closer to that, it sounds like to me that you just led with like, I don't want to say your heart, and I don't want to make it sound so fluffy, but it's sometimes when you get involved with experiences where, like, for example, for me, when I was in my first job, I just got involved with projects that I genuinely thought were interesting. And then later I realized, oh, those are HR related things. And so for you, you were getting involved with art and music and comics. And then like you sort of later made sense of like, how can those things come together? But I'm curious, did you ever have a moment where you were like, when you were choosing that foundation, like, were you ever like sure or not sure or worried about like, where could this go professionally? Because those were the beginning of your choices of like, in uni, you were choosing that path, but like, I think a lot of people hesitate in the world of arts. I'm curious, like, how was your thinking when you were making those decisions around the courses?
You know what? I think you've hit the nail on the head with regards to that. I think that I'm less sure about how things are in the States and various other places in the world, but certainly in the UK, over the years, we've had less and less, I guess, money and support and things like that being poured into the arts. So people are less inclined to support that in general. They might consider it to be, I don't know, like a time-wasted subject or something like that, which is a shame, because most of our life it's about art, it's about expression, it's about, if we were walking down the street and we saw an advert, it's there simply through the fact that somebody has gone to art school or taught themselves how to do this, and our world is as bright and as lovely as it is simply because we have these people with vision. And I know that for myself, I certainly got to a point where I was at a bit of a crossroads, because I definitely had issues with deciding whether to properly go down art or music. I very much started to concentrate on music at a certain point, about halfway through my foundation course. And for as much support as I had, Again, yes, I was, as fluffy as it sounds, I was being led by my heart. I was being led by the things that I truly enjoyed doing. That's not to say that I didn't enjoy art and things like that, but I think perhaps the circumstances that I was actually in at that time, I was being led more towards music. At which point I got simply a pass at my foundation, which isn't great. It's not terrible, but I think my interest waned slightly. I did end up going to a few interviews for universities after that, but it never stuck. I don't think my passion was with that for a while.
So you had a moment where you noticed it and then you said, well, art has always been there, and then you said, let me lean into that?
Yeah, I think, you know, the way I see it, I've always had two paths in my life. That's been art and, you know, producing visual stuff and music.
Yeah.
And they're not really mutually exclusive. But certainly when I was in my very early career, like at university kind of levels, I was swinging certainly more towards the music at a certain point. And that was the thing that I ended up concentrating on.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is, like, so first of all, so many good things of what you just mentioned. So, like, number one, I have, you know, as a person who has helped people clarify their career path for many years now, I have noticed a weird phenomenon where the people who really figure out what it is they want to do are often combining two or three things together. So for you, doing animation, art, and music, it like makes perfect sense now in hindsight that you were like, had these two areas and then they came together professionally later. So I think for those in the audience just thinking about, sometimes if there's two or three components of your interest, how do you maybe combine those? Like, are there roles or industries where your interests can sort of coalesce? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, like, I love how you just had this reminder, and I think about this all the time, because anything you see around you was produced or created or managed by someone. And I think we forget that even the artistic elements, whether it's a commercial, an ad, some, thing, sign you're seeing in the street, on the sidewalk, whatever it may be, these were built. And I think people sometimes pick jobs based on like what they're aware of versus like look around at the world. And we need to like look for our niche, because all these products and all these services have people behind it. So don't like rule things out per se, but actually ask yourself, who are the people behind that, right? Like, there are jobs for the things that you think it's just a hobby, but guess what? There's companies that deal with art and music, right? I'm curious, you know, John, like, when you transitioned from music to art, like, was there a moment, like you said, like there was less support in the arts and people were less inclined, and maybe people think it's time wasted, but like, how did you deal, like, did you have a fear moment, or did you just say, you know what, I know people say this and they think this, but I'm still going to just do it? Did you like think through that, or you just sort of went with your gut and said, I'll figure it out later?
Do you mean art to music or music to art? Because I've jumped both ways.
Well, I guess when you were honestly either, I guess my point is, I think it sounds like you recognize that these might be difficult professional pathways. So like, how
Very
did you
much.
get over the fear of like, you know, is this going to work out in terms of like a job for me? Like, you led, I love that you led with your interest, and secondarily you said, where are the professional pathways? And you made it work, because this is my whole point that I try to get across to people. There is a world that you look at, what is a natural affinity for you and an interest. And guess what? You can be more successful if you actually just tap into that. But not everyone, you know, sometimes it's hard to trust and have faith, and really, especially when it's like in the arts, and it's, you know, you know, generally people have that worry about, how could I make this into a career? So I'm curious, like, how did you deal with that feeling in the beginning?
Well, primarily when I jumped from the art side of things going into music, being a musician is not easy. You know, we're talking about like 95 through to 99, around about that time, when I was really starting to properly, go out, do gigs, write my own music, that kind of thing. And it's not an easy thing to do. So I kind of went with a blind panic almost. And that's primarily because this is stuff that I believed in, and I was leading with my heart, perhaps not brilliantly. I had a series of smaller jobs and kind of part-time stuff and things that, was never necessarily going to be leading to a proper career. And I did that for like quite a few years. I've had a very varied experience in terms of companies that I've worked for. I worked at the London Library for a while, which is it's a private membership library. It's not the British Library, but it's a very big establishment that, I was there for something like 2 years, and I was just stocking, I was stocking shelves. I was putting books on shelves. It's not super challenging, but it allowed me to then concentrate a bit on music. And that's where all of my money ended up going to. Okay, I have to be more successful with this. And because I didn't know other people who were able to help me do it, I ended up teaching myself how to do loads and loads of these jobs.
Yeah.
So I'd start programming music, and I'd end up managing the band that I was in, and I would produce all of the artwork for it as well. And I ended up writing music, and all of these things, and it became a case of I was desperate to, I guess, express myself, and I put myself out there to try and come up with as best product. I hate the word product, but the best result, the best art that I possibly could. I was always driven to try and do that. And I think, unfortunately, look, there's a joke which is what do you call a musician without a girlfriend? Homeless. And unfortunately, I was part-time job guy. I was the guy who was spending loads of his time and his money and his energy into creating something that, at the end of it, which was around about 2008, I ended up kind of stopping that. I decided, I'll create a studio, because I was doing lots of production work as well. I very much got into the technical side of creating music. So I was making albums. I was actually recording people. I ended up working on like a couple of films and things like that, where I engineered the soundtrack to a couple of things. So I ended up having lots and lots of different experiences, like even going on tour and things like that, like organizing that whole side of things. But whenever I was doing the jobs that I had to do to pay my way in life, I always felt like I was being kind of looked down upon. Like, my experiences didn't really matter, because people wanted to see that, okay, you've been to university and you have managed to hold down a steady job for like 5 years, and none of this stuff that you've been doing over the past 10 years, John, really counts for anything, because it's just playing in a band, isn't it? Whereas it's your own little business.
Well, it sounds like that might have been your own mindset getting in your own way. Like, did any future employers actually validate that, or was that you feeling nervous about the fact that you had an entrepreneurial path?
The employer that helped me validate that is actually the Inside Story, who I'm working with now.
Right. Yes.
I mean, to be honest with you, I ended up as it's talking about jumping backwards and forwards in terms of art and music. 2008, I decided, right, I've had enough of rubbish jobs, bad jobs. These are all terrible, and my music isn't necessarily going anywhere. studio hasn't worked out. It's 2008. There was a huge issue with, the economy. So I decided to actually get into doing art again. I went back to university. I did a degree in illustration and visual media at the University of the Arts, London. And that was a very, very quick thing of me. Okay, I'm just going to dive into this because this is something I know that I need to do. And once that actually started happening, I got more into the visual aspect of things. About halfway through that, I decided I started another band, and I decided, okay, I'm going to do this really intelligent thing, which is to I've got an album that I know that I want to release. I'm going to make and film or animate or whatever a video for every single song. And it was more a case of me pushing myself to try and do these things. It's constant challenging of myself to improve. Because I didn't ever feel like, certainly like work and jobs and the people that employed me, they were never ever doing that. They just wanted me to stack shelves or count paintbrushes, because I worked in an art store for a while. They wanted me to do things that weren't ever challenging to me. They never fulfilled me.
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's so much amazing juice in everything you're saying. So
Sorry,
no, this is so good. I love it. I love it. I mean, your commitment to, like, for anyone in our audience, if you're ever debating whether it's something entrepreneurial, whether it's teaching something to yourself, whatever it may be, like, when you lead with something you're genuinely interested in, I always say, especially for like an entrepreneur or anything like that, you have to be committed genuinely to, like, what am I doing here and why is it interesting to me? Because otherwise, the hard work and the sweat and tears that went into you making your path, like, it just can't happen. If you're a lot of people lead with like, I'm going to just do this skill because it's hot in the market right now and everyone's looking for this type of skill. Like, the only way you could persist was because it was coming from that genuine interest. So I love your commitment, which again comes from such a genuine place. I also love your scrappiness, which was like, let me just support myself. Let me go work at this library. Let me go work at this paint store. Because sometimes with certain career paths, if you know it takes longer to build up a portfolio, it means having other side jobs. I mean, I even had part-time career coaching jobs while I was building my own business. So when you're committed to a vision, if you know it's going to take you time, simply find ways to afford that time. The other thing I'm noticing is when you went back to university and even writing music, you mentioned like the blind panic, you mentioned a quick decision to dive in. Like, you're almost going with your gut so quickly before the fear sets in. Like, you're just like, know what's right for you. And like, yes, it's scary, but because you knew it was right for you, you said, let me just figure out a way of making it happen. I think a lot of people do in the questions and the fears, and those are normal, but like, you knew deep down it was right and you just like ran with it and made it happen. And the last thing I'll just say is like, I think a lot of people are interested in like different gigs and different skills. You basically just like made your job. Like, instead of waiting for someone to like give you a job, you said, I'm going to make this band. I'm going to produce this song. I'm going to produce this video. I'm going to go teach myself all this stuff. And I just love that so much. Like, if you're doing this on the side of a job and you're working, or if you're not working, like, whatever job it is that you want, how can you do that job today? Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you need a certain access to some software or some tool or some data, but like, go find some open source scrappy ways that you can, like, it's very entrepreneurial, the way an entrepreneur has to build a prototype out of, like a $0 cost thing. It's like, how do you build from nothing? How do you look at your resources today and just say, what could I build today? What could I learn? What could I give myself the opportunity where I could both learn and produce some deliverables that would literally show an employer that I know what I'm doing? And you just like went out there and proved that and built your own opportunities. And I just like love everything you're saying so much. Is there anything in the story or the trajectory, like, take us a little further? Like, you went back to university and then did you start getting jobs in animation and film, and then eventually where you are today? Like, how did things go?
Well, I had a very interesting period of time where I finished university. That was actually in 2016. And God, that's actually so long ago now. Strange. So in 2016, I finished university. I graduated, and the first thing I did was I became something called a robot handler, which was the weirdest job I've probably ever had in my life, which was walking around London working for a company who produce semi-autonomous delivery robots. And honestly, I walked about 10 hours a day just keeping an eye on this robot and talking to somebody in Estonia who was doing a lot of the technical side of things. I won't mention the company, but yeah, it was a very bizarre job. But that was in some of the more interesting parts of London as well. I finished doing that and moved to Tunbridge Wells, which, in case other people haven't heard of it, given lots of people are in the States. It's in Kent, which is, if you're in London and you head about 45 minutes down on the train, so it's south, then you'll actually end up hitting Tunbridge Wells at some point before you get to the coast. But yeah, I decided to move to Tunbridge Wells just on the off chance that there might be some more opportunities, and I decided with my wife, my new wife at the time, we decided, okay, we're gonna head there, see what happens, and I ended up pretty much being a glorified answering machine. I was taking messages for companies on the phone, and yeah, that was my job. And it was awful. It's probably one of the worst jobs I've ever done.
Were you just taking that because you needed anything at the time?
Yep. I mean, the economy wasn't great, obviously. I think everyone's had that kind of issue. And I did some bits on the side. I've always been freelance. I produced a series of animated videos for a friend of mine for a band called Death and Gloria, which they're basically, it's a one-woman band, and she got various people to help her out with things, and I was one of those people. So I managed to kind of still be creative. I still managed to get myself out there and doing things. But about a year or so into actually being in Tunbridge Wells, I replied to an advert to a guy called Barney, who was just looking for somebody who was potentially had involvement in the music world in some way.
Yeah, John, your mic is giving a tiny bit of feedback.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
Let's see.
Is that a bit better?
Little bit.
Is that okay?
I don't know if it's me or you, but let's see.
Try that again.
That's so much better. Okay. Yep. So this guy put out an ad. Yep.
So I ended up getting in contact with a guy named Barney, who was looking for a very kind of mixed set of skills. And I was able to fulfill some of those. I had knowledge of video and stuff like that, but he was also looking for potentially like a digital marketer and somebody who had ability with copywriting and things. And I had obviously some experience with professional audio, so we're talking production, that side of things as well, and touring. So I ended up getting in contact with him, and it was Barney, who's actually the CEO of the Inside Story. And he actually came from a publishing background. So he has, over the years, he's done stuff with numerous magazines. He's been all over the world. He is a bit of a living legend within the pro audio industry. lovely, lovely guy. We had a really good chat, and then I didn't get the job.
Oh, wow. Oh, John, sorry. I'm going to pause you one more time. I'm still hearing that. Valentina, let me know if you're still hearing that too. And John, is it possible to just use your phone audio if you're not already just using that? Because I'm not sure what else might be causing it.
Yeah, one moment.
Just want to quickly troubleshoot so we can hear you.
Let's see.
All right, let's see. Yeah. Oh, you might be. Oh, let's try again.
Is that okay?
I'm still hearing it, oddly enough.
Okay, one moment.
Well, in the meantime, let's see if John can troubleshoot a little bit, but I want to finish the story of how you got hired. In the meantime, I did see one hand raised, so we might want to just turn to some Q&A. So please let us know, raise your hand if you have questions, and we want to answer all the career questions. And, look, today's focus is definitely career paths, finding clarity, finding your best fit role. But if you have questions on, as John went back to school, those are decisions to be made, branding yourself, job searching. I mean, this is all relevant, but, of course, we're trying to help you all find a fitting path. John, let me know whenever you feel like we can try again with your audio. We can do that. But in the meantime, please raise your hands if there are any career questions that we can answer. And, we'll keep going with our conversation. But at any point from now until the end, you can raise hands and we'll see how we can help you all. John, do you want to try the mic again? All right. You're on mute, so just unmute yourself. And maybe he stepped away, which is totally okay.
What's that?
Oh, there you go.
Is that better?
Yes. So much
That's
better.
good.
Okay,
Good.
beautiful. Okay, so tell us, you were telling us that the CEO of the Inside Story is sort of a legend in his own right.
Yes.
So what's most interesting is you didn't get the job. What happened after
that? Well, Barney told me that he would keep my CV and my resume. He would keep my portfolio to hand, and if he actually needed help from anybody, meaning myself, then he would actually get back in contact at some point. Now, I'm pretty sure that everybody has experienced this kind of thing previously where you're never going to hear from that person ever again. But true to his word, about a year later, he got in contact with me and said, we've actually got some video work if you'd be interested in doing that. And within 3 months of, I ended up doing some just some freelance work for them, first of all. Yeah. Within 3 months, I ended up properly being part of the company. And it's a very, very small company. Currently, we only have 6 people and a few freelancers and people like that. But we have actually an incredible roster of clients, which is amazing, really. Certainly for such a small company.
Yeah, I love it. And so this is a good tip, to anyone listening, that like if you had an interview whenever, you can get back in touch with these people even if they didn't bring you on. Like you still built a connection and they met you, and who knows how that company's needs are changing. So those people are part of your network and are probably going to remember you and know you even more than a candidate that's just a resume. So absolutely use your network, and you never know where it may go. I love that. John, what would you tell someone who's just trying to figure out their best fit career path? What would be your best thoughts?
Oh, wow. I honestly think that certainly for me, I found that the best thing you can do is to do the thing that you enjoy doing. Yeah. If you are trying to fit yourself into a box that's not of your own making, then you're never going to be particularly happy, and you're going to end up probably wanting to move from job to job.
Yeah.
It's been the only thing that I've ever properly been looking at whenever I've been looking at work.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm so blessed to find myself in a position at the moment where I actually feel like I am valued, and I feel like I am a person that contributes to the company, rather than just being, I don't know, a drone or somebody that is just turning up for a paycheck.
Yeah. I love it. I love it so much. I mean, it has such impacts and benefits for yourself and for those around you, just your mindset and how you go about life. So the impact of having that career clarity, and, look, it's not to say it's like easy per se. Like, you had a challenging road and you persisted forward, because when you know what you want to do, you find those opportunities and you make those opportunities. And for you, it has now panned out into this wonderful experience. And so it might take time, it might take effort. Like, you also, especially for jobs that require like a portfolio. I mean, we all require some level of a
Oh yeah.
portfolio, but especially with arts or things like that, you built that up over the course of time. So I think you knew it was going to pan out at some point. But just let me keep doing it. Let me keep getting better at it. Someone's going to recognize that. And it absolutely went that way. But I think it's just an important reminder. Sometimes people try to force these career decisions, and it's okay to come down to, like, what am I good at? What do I like doing? Because guess what? There might be a job out there that applies both what you're good at and what you enjoy. And that's the sweet spot, right?
Absolutely. I mean, something I should say is that the inside story, the kind of thing that we actually do. We are a marketing company, and what we work with B2B clients usually. We do various other things, but primarily it's within pro audio. Primarily it's within, actually there's some security stuff that we do as well. But we've got clients who they produce the PA systems for Glastonbury. We have Bosch as a client. There's NAM, which is one of the largest trade shows. It's over in the States, over on the West Coast, and we are the people who are there. And without my experience of that intervening 20 odd years or whatever it was of being a musician and doing the job that I'm now kind of talking to people doing that same job and producing videos for them, I wouldn't understand that. I wouldn't have that knowledge, and I wouldn't have that connection with them. So even though I was doing all of that stuff and thinking, maybe I'm not going to make it, maybe I'm not going to do anything, I'm now in a position where actually I have a ridiculous amount of experience doing this that I didn't realize.
Yes, I love that. Like, things that felt in the beginning, not that it was like a misstep, but you might have said, what am I going to do with all this experience in music and whatever? But like, it can be knowledge and experience that you can apply in ways that you don't realize at the time. So look back at your varied experiences and see who else can you advise or help with the different experiences that you have. And it just shows that you don't know where things are going to lead. And all experiences can be valuable in one way, shape, or form. Even, when I help people who make a pivot, like your experience across different functions, different skills, different industries, no matter what, even if it's not directly applied, it's still broadening your perspective. So all those experiences will still add value in one way, shape, or form. I love this. I want to invite anyone for questions. And of course, we will keep going if no one has questions, but please raise your hand if there's any career related goals, challenges, topics that you would like to hear more about. And I hope John's story is, inspiring each of you to figure out your own directions, but I will pay attention to any raised hands. And in the meantime, I'm curious, John, when you have sort of been involved with any hiring or interviewing candidates, like,
Yeah.
now that you have your own path and you understand the fit of your own job, like, what are you looking for when you see, whether it's junior professionals or really any new joiner to your team? What stands out to you? Like, I personally think career clarity has a pretty big impact on the effectiveness and how compelling an interview is, but like, what stands out
Yeah.
to you when someone else is trying to tell their story?
Interestingly, I think that it does kind of come down to things like the passion that they actually display. Absolutely, you can have a look at somebody's portfolio and see that they are technically proficient. They're able to do these things that you require of them to do that job. That's fine. There are probably thousands and thousands of people out there who have a similar ability. But to have somebody who cares about what they are doing, to have somebody that actually is actually very deeply attached to the thing that they are doing. So they're invested.
Yes, I love that. And you can just tell in their tone, in their words. I mean, this is, when I help somebody to prepare for interviews, like, the whole point of career exploration is basically to ask yourself interview questions before anyone else asks it of you, so that you can make sure you actually have genuine answers. Because I think a lot of people show up to interviews and they say what they think the person is looking for, but it's going to come across in your tone that you're forcing it. And this is the thing, we're human. We can hear tone, we can hear energy, and we can hear if someone's just checking the box. So remember that interviews are not just a thing to like check the box, or like, even if you're trying to do a good job, it's like, I always say, like, which room should you be in? Which conversation should you be in? Networking and interviews are a mirror into the work. So I think a lot of people just like apply for things kind of blindly versus like, what conversation am I going to be like, have a compelling conversation? Because the interview, like, imagine you're going to talk about the projects and the work and your approach. If you have that energy towards those problems and those goals and those, what is the work at hand, they're going to smell that. They want people who are engaged on their team and not sleeping at the wheel. So I think there's so much in terms of we always say passion, but what does that mean? Like you said, it's you're invested. Now, look, you don't need to go above and beyond. You don't need to not have work-life balance. But for the working hours that you do work, if you're trying to land these interviews, ask yourself, are you in the right interviews, right? It makes such a big difference.
It really does. Yeah. I mean, I certainly find that I've done tons and tons of jobs that I honestly don't care about. The reason that I'm doing that job, the reason I'm at that interview is because I need to be able to feed myself and house myself and take care of my family. And that it's a reality of the world. But I think that certainly finding myself in a position that I'm in now, where I actually feel like I care.
Yeah.
I very much understand the difference viewpoint, where you can actually talk to somebody and that they are engaged in what they are trying to do or what they want to do in their career.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. We have a question here from Stephanie. So let me pull you up onto the stage. Stephanie, tell us what your question is.
I'm just fascinated by this conversation. It's something that, this idea of passion, I just don't see it enough out there. And when I hear you speak, it gets me really excited. Like, the fire's there. I just don't know where to go to find that fire.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find. Most folks are just, head down, let's get the work done. And you're up against this attitude of, let's just put in our day and be done.
Right.
Where does one go to find that passion? I have it. I want to be able to tap into it and utilize it.
Yeah.
It's hard to find.
So are you basically saying you want to find other people that are also engaged and like a team? Like are you saying you feel alone in the fact that you are caring about the work, but those around you are not feeling that same way?
A little bit. It's kind of like almost feel like my passion doesn't quite. It's not quite where everyone else is,
Yeah.
and it feels a little lonely. I almost feel like am I in the wrong industry? Am I doing the wrong thing?
Well,
It's
okay,
hard to
so
be the
yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of factors. Here's a good framework that I like to recommend to people. If you're not sure if you're in the right fit path, you can use this three-part framework to try to assess like your current job or your current state. So there's role, there's industry, there's environment. And if you just need to reflect, journal, brain dump, like ask yourself, what's aligned about my day-to-day role and what's not aligned? What's aligned about my industry and what's not aligned? And what's aligned about my environment or the work culture and what's not aligned? Sometimes I'll meet with people who are like, all three of these are just not right. And some people say 2 out of 3, some people say 1 out of 3. It's possible for you if you're in maybe a role in an industry, but perhaps the culture of, the team that you're on, if they are simply checking the box, maybe you need a different company culture that actually has people who are equally as driven or ambitious or whatever it may be. That being said, industry, so I'll go through each of them quickly, right? So the role is, what am I doing all day? The activities, the skills, what is making up my week? Where is my time going? And is the skills and the projects aligned with what I'm good at, what I'm interested in? The industry is kind of like the mission of the company. It's kind of like, what is the product or service? What does this company do? Why do they do it? How do they do it? And do I care about their mission? Because yeah, you want to personally feel aligned, and then ideally your colleagues also feel that way. Then the third piece is the environment. So like tangibly, what does it look and feel like? Are you working remotely or not? What are the hours? Things like that. Travel, but also intangibly, what are the values and the style of that organization? So that three-part framework can sometimes help to diagnose like, where do I need improvement? If I were to go somewhere else, am I really just simply looking to optimize which one or two of these three parts? That's kind of a good way to divide it up to like at least start thinking about it. Does that help a little bit, Stephanie?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. John, anything to add?
I think that I think you're absolutely right, Rachel. I think unfortunately as well, there's always that little bit of luck. I've certainly found myself in the company of some amazing humans. The fact is that I'm inspired by what they do as well, and I'm very lucky to be in that kind of position.
Yeah, I think the good news is like, if you know the industry you want to be in, there's going to be thousands of companies that do that similar thing, that product, that service. So if you're not in a good culture or environment, go seek out a better one. And just remember that with every job, it's an incremental improvement. So you ask yourself, what do I know that's working well? It may be my role is a fit, but maybe my culture is not a fit. So you can always look for like, what do I need more of? And you just say, with my next job change, I'm going to optimize for which thing. Am I going to pivot role? Am I going to pivot industry? Or am I going to pivot culture? Sometimes it's hard to do all three at once. And there's different strategies and choices as to which one you may prioritize. But there's always a way of improving whichever element is missing. And, to John's point, obviously, with luck, people, what's the quote, right? When luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So yes, there has to be the opportunity, but guess what? With what is job search? Job search is simply going to uncover where are the opportunities. And guess what? Of course, you've got to be prepared, because that's, building up your relevant experience in line with your ideal direction. So there's a lot that you can do and a lot that you can control. And I think Stephanie's point is kind of like, sometimes it feels unfortunate if your team around you isn't as engaged, but always come back to, what can I control? Right? Like, what is the next step for me? What can I look for that's better or different with my next career step? Right? Any other questions in our audience? Please feel free to raise your hand or send me a message. Happy to take a few more questions. We have a few more minutes here. And in the meantime, I will tell you all where you can find us, but I will stick around for another few minutes and happy to answer any other questions. But definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, Rachel Serwetz. And my company has accounts on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. It's either Woken or Get Woken. But our website is IamWoken.com. We always offer a free initial coaching call. So if you're not sure where you're at or what you need or how you're feeling, don't feel like you have to come with the answers. We are here to help you in your career feel supported, feel guided, and we will have more Fishbowl events, which is really exciting. So stick around for those. I might see a question coming in. I'm going to make sure I'm checking my DM. So let me know if I'm missing anything here. And John, where can we connect with you?
You can find our website on gettheinsidestory.com. And we're also on LinkedIn. We do various different things, obviously video and animation and that side of things as well. But we also do social, digital, PR, copywriting, branding, websites, all manner of things. We're kind of a one-stop shop for many people.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's for us, it's about being able to tell people's story in the right kind of way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And just so all the listeners know, we didn't really go so much into it. And we do have prior conversations and recordings of other conversations that go a little deeper. But if you're curious about some of the practical methods that you can follow, I call it career path exploration. But really, there are very tangible steps that you can take to explore, to do research, to do networking, to do reflection. And, my job is here to tell you that if with consistent effort, and the way we guide clients is just in 2 to 3 months of exploration, you can really gain confidence in the role and the industry and the environment that is a fit for you. So I'm here to remind you that is more than feasible and beneficial to sort of figure out your best path. And that's kind of what I want everybody to know. So I see another question here. Excel, am I saying your name correct? Please come up and tell us what your question is and how we can help you. I think I invited you up, so I think you have to accept it. You can come up to the stage, but if not, we will keep going. And DM me if you're having any issues, but I did invite you up to the stage to ask your question. And in the meantime, let us know if there's any other questions. But bottom line is, we want you to feel that it is feasible, and it is feasible to go explore and research and network and reflect and gain confidence in your best fit direction. So just know that you can do that. It doesn't have to be this never ending journey of what do I want? Having that uncertainty can be stressful, but there are people around you to support you, to help you learn about yourself and learn about what career paths are out there so you can figure out what it is you want and simply go pursue that. We want you to spend your time and energy just simply advancing your skills and advancing your path and growing rather than questioning, where do I belong in this professional world? And it's an important and valid question, but we're here to make sure you get those answers so that you don't have to be swimming in that uncertainty forever. It's a tough feeling, and that's why we're here. That's kind of what I do, just to make sure you have support with that. It's a really big question. It's an important question. Let's take one question before we hop off. We have Elizabeth here, and please tell us your question. Oh, Elizabeth, I can't. There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
I actually wanted to know, I don't know if I missed it earlier, but is there a way to listen to what I missed in the beginning of this and to previous conversations?
Yes. Valentina, can you help me easily direct people? Like, there definitely are recordings. And by the way, Elizabeth, I usually add the recordings to my website, but I'm sure there's a way on the app as well. So just so you guys know, at IamWoken.com, there's Fishbowl recordings in addition to other past event recordings. But Valentina, tell us where we can go on the app so that everyone can find this conversation.
Yeah, most definitely. If you go under the microphone, there's some options to say previous conversations, upcoming, and the ones that you have attended already. So you just go over there, press it, and you can find the full conversation.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, and we have another one coming up on June 20th with Fishbowl, and I think we have another one in July at some point as well. So please stick around. Please join us. Oh, yes, Fishbowl. I think we have July 25th. So we'll do hopefully at least once a month. All right, let's take one last question here. And then I promise we'll wrap it up. Sherry, tell us what you got.
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So my name is Sherry, and I'm not problem in the career choosing. I'm based in Switzerland, and now I got two offer. But one is I already got the permanent offer, and then because my friend know the executed the board like very high manager, so later I can move in faster. But another job just offered me today. Actually, I rejected, but the leader just came to me and asked me if I wanted again. It's another internship, and it's very exciting. The previous offer I got is more about like safe option, and this one is more challenging and exciting, but an internship role and doesn't really promise permanent role, permanent contract in the future.
Yeah.
And so I would really like to ask about your opinions and suggestions on it.
Well, first of all, I think I'm happy to have a one-on-one chat. So we do have our Calendly link for the free call link to my website, because sometimes these situations are just individualized. But honestly, I would really look at like sort of like, could you afford, if it was an internship that didn't continue, like your personal financial runway is usually the first question with job searching. And secondarily, like, I would ask them, what is the opportunity to potentially continue after this internship? The other thing is like, if the job or the internship or the company or something about it is actually reputable and worthwhile enough that it's really going to be meaningful in launching you into like your intended direction, then it might be worth it. But it just depends how different that work is from the other job. Also, like John did, you can always build up a portfolio on the side of a job if you can't financially afford to intern. So lots of options. It kind of depends on your personal situation and what is the nature of these two different jobs. But yeah, let's chat about that offline. And for the sake of time, I'm going to wrap up our conversation because we did start a little over an hour ago. So I just want to say thank you to all of our listeners. Please come back next time, and please, reach out. I'm all over LinkedIn. I try to post. If there's a question we didn't get to, just simply email us, LinkedIn, message me. Like, seriously, I want to help create guidance, answers, resources, whatever it may be. So please let me know what's going on, and we will be back again to help and support you with your careers. So have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you next time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much, John.
Thank you.